folks. Welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Sunday, August the 27th, 2017, and I have the very distinct honor and great pleasure of welcoming to the show for the first time the President, CEO, and Chairman of U.S. Gold Corporation, which is listed on the NASDAQ under the symbol USAU, Mr. Edward Karr. Edward, welcome to the show.
Rory, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. I want to give your extensive resume here real quick, and then we'll get into the show. And you are the founder of several investment management and investment banking firms based out of Geneva, Switzerland, which I believe is where you're at, and has been active in the natural resource industry for years. Mr. Karr was a founder and currently serves on the board of directors of Pershing Gold Corporation, listed on the NASDAQ under the symbol PGLC, and Mr. Karr is director and chairman of Audit Committee for Levon Resources, listed on the Toronto's Ventures Exchange under the symbol LVN. In 2004, Futures Magazine named Mr. Karr as one of the world's top traders. He is a past contributor to CNBC and has been quoted in numerous financial publications. Mr. Karr worked for Prudential Securities in the U.S. and has been in the financial services industry for over 20 years. That is an impressive resume.
Well, thank you, Rory.
And I'm grateful for your time today. And we're just going to jump in and wanted to start, Ed, with a couple of questions pertaining to you. And from your perspective, and this is just really an opinion, if you have a more studied knowledge, then that's great. But Ed, why are the Chinese, Russians, and Indians acquiring these huge amounts of gold? I mean, what do you see as the purpose for these massive inflows of gold into these countries?
Rory, that's a great question. And, one I don't get asked often enough. Fantastic that you've picked up on that. We've witnessed for years and years pretty massive flows, what I'll call from west to east. The world's gold has been moving out of the United States, Western Europe, definitely flowing towards Russia, China, and India. And when you look at it, you wonder why. China alone, they're one of the largest gold producers in the world. And the Chinese government buys all of their domestic production. And we never get transparent numbers coming out of China. They just hoover up all the gold in that country and then buy as much as they can on the open markets out there as well. Russia's been doing the same, buying substantial quantities of gold, the Russian central bank, the Bank of India too. And why have they been doing this? I think when you look at these countries, China for a long time has wanted their currency, the renminbi, the yuan, to join into the special drawing right. I think that they ultimately would love to see the RMB replace the US dollar as one of the world's leading reserve currencies. And ultimately, I think that if the Chinese can get up to maybe a 30, 40, even 50% level of gold covering their overall reserves, the world would wake up one day and say, wow, this Chinese currency is really attractive because it has backing of gold. Russia the same way, India the same way. A lot of these governments around the world have been getting very, very nervous on the US dollar, US treasuries. They've been slowly, quietly, like a stealth bomber, just diversifying away from these US assets and acquiring more and more and more gold. So you got to continue to watch these flow of funds. And I think it's very telling for the future.
I would agree wholeheartedly. I think that China is not only acquiring all of their internally mined gold, but they're buying on the open market, and they are buying gold mines, which is, they don't have to report any of that. Just like you said, it's very opaque. We don't really know what's going on. They report to the World Gold Council. Yeah, we're somewhere 400, 450 tons of internally mined gold. We don't know that to be accurate. We don't. And because they don't have to bring that to the table. And since nobody else around the world does, why should they? Same thing with Russia. Yeah, Russia tells the World Gold Council we mine, somewhere 200, 250 tons a year. So thank you, kid. Go away. you know. So that's and Russia is buying on the open market as well. So there's a lot of gold moving into those two countries, and I think that you're right as far as a gold-backed currency coming to the table at some time in the not too distant future is a very real possibility. And speaking of real possibilities, I mean, we have serious economic trouble here in the United States, and on the horizon, it really doesn't look too promising. And what are you doing, Ed, to protect your wealth?
Yeah, that's a great point, Rory. And, you look at some of these storm clouds forming out there right now. When I look at some of the economic statistics and just some of the numbers coming out of the United States, we see a new subprime debt crisis evolving right now in auto subprime loans. That's becoming a real issue. We see the student loan crisis, student loan debt at all-time peaks. New home sales are down tremendously in the United States. And you wonder why new home sales are down. And it's because the amount of 30 to 40-year-olds living at home with their parents is actually at all-time highs. People cannot even afford to go out to buy a new home anymore. I read a statistic the other day that actually a majority of Americans have less than $1,000 of emergency savings out there.
Yep.
So there is this massive debt crisis. Consumer installment debt is at all-time highs right now. It's higher even than we had at the peak of the global financial crisis. So these are some really scary numbers. And when I look at it and I see this massive stealth inflation we've had through these equity market runs, it's a very small number of large cap equity names that have been leading the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P to new all-time highs. And you can name them on, one hand, 5 or 6 names. So I think ultimately, when I'm looking to protect my family, protect my own wealth, precious metals definitely form that bottom base insurance policy. Gold and silver have really stayed the test of time. They maintain purchasing power parity in all sorts of crises. And we're seeing gold really start to catch a bid. We're up to about $1,293 today. We
Yep.
almost broke through that $1,300 level. We're at $17 silver. I think once we start moving through this $1,300 level this fall, we're going to have tremendous interest that's going to come in. I also think that if we get a crack in the equity markets, if the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P were to pull back 5, 10, 15%, and I tell you, Rory, that can be so easy today.
Yes.
Because the equity markets today, they're dominated by this computerized algorithmic ETF trading. And the minute it starts to go down, you watch. These computers are just going to hammer the bids. Liquidity is going to dry up, and we'll be down 15 to 20% before people can say, what just happened. And it's so easy. People can pick up a telephone number. They dial 1-800-FIDELITY Investments, change my speculative growth stock ETF into cash, and it just exacerbates the selling. So I think once that happens and people start to see their 401k balance, the retirement balance go down 10, 15%, they'll start to get very nervous and look to start picking up some gold and silver. And these precious metals can really, really go on a tremendous run in the next couple months and years.
I like it. I mean, as far as the run that you foresee with gold and silver, I mean, we certainly need that after 6 years of a beatdown that we've taken, and the precious metals stackers like myself. I mean, we're all, it's like, come on, guys, give us a break here. So I'm glad to hear you say that. And you are a gold miner, and you have 3 properties at various stages. You've got 2 in Nevada. You've got the Keystone Project and the Gold Bar North project. And then you have over in Wyoming, you've got Copper King. I mean, which property do you find to be the most exciting, and why is that, Ed?
Well, Rory, I'll tell you, being Swiss and talking to you today from Geneva, I'm going to be a Swiss diplomat and say I like all 3 properties. And I really do. They're all Keystone and Gold Bar North are very synergistic. And as you rightly pointed out, we also have Copper King in Wyoming. Let's start with Copper King. That's how we founded the company, US Gold Corp. We put the company together originally around Copper King. Copper King being located in Wyoming, it's just outside of Cheyenne. I tell you, Wyoming is a fantastic state to be in the mining business. And what really attracted us in the beginning to Copper King is Copper King has a known resource. We know that there is mineralization on that property. In fact, one of the premier geological consulting firms out there, MD&A, has done a historic PEA, that's a preliminary economic assessment on Copper King. And it shows that there's approximately 1.1 million ounces of measured, indicated, and inferred gold, and approximately 300 million pounds of measured, indicated, and inferred copper. When MDA did that, when they did their study in 2012, they used an $1,100 gold price and $3 copper price. Well, today copper's at $3, but gold is almost $1,300. And even when they did this study in 2012, the economics on Copper King are very robust. They show a net present value of $160 million on the project. They show an internal rate of return of about 31.2%. Now, those numbers should potentially be even higher today with the increase of the gold price. So we're really excited on Copper King. And we're going to advance that project forward by helping to permit it. We'll move it towards pre-feasibility. And we also believe there is additional exploration upside on that property. So we can go out and we can explore and ultimately drill and prove up more ounces of gold and more pounds of copper. So we're very, very excited about that. Now, when we switch to Keystone and Gold Bar North, Keystone and Gold Bar North are located in Nevada. And if you want to be looking for major gold deposits, Rory, there is no better place, in my opinion, on the planet to be looking than North Central Nevada. This is the home of elephants, big monster mines on the Carlin Trend and the Cortez Trend. Our Keystone property in Nevada, it's district scale. That means it's big. It's 9,500 acres, about 15 square miles of prime real estate right on one of the most prolific gold trends in North America, the Cortez Trend. In fact, we are 10 miles south of Barrick Gold's very profitable Cortez Hills mine. Just across the valley is Barrick Gold's Pipeline mine. I mean, these are massive, massive mines. Barrick also has two major discoveries called Gold Rush and ET Blue. So this whole Cortez complex of Barrick's is probably 50 to 60 million ounces of proven gold and even more exploration potential. Well, our head geologist at US Gold Corp, his name is Dave Mathewson. Dave Mathewson is somewhat of a legend in the Nevada gold exploration circles. Dave is a proven ore finder. He has a successful 50-year career as an exploration geologist. 35 years of that have been in Nevada. So he's been on and off almost every property and knows most of the rocks out there. Dave used to run exploration for Newmont Mining in the Great Basin of Nevada. He's had several major exploration successes where he's proved up discoveries. And Dave believes that Keystone is the most exciting exploration property he has seen in his career. Wow. So coming from someone like Dave, I mean, it's really impressive. And why is he so excited? Well, I tell you, the host rocks, the geology, the stratigraphy, everything, all the information we have is telling us that there is a major potential gold system present at Keystone. We're seeing the exact same indicators that have led to these big, massive mines and discoveries to our north, Cortez Hills, Pipeline, Gold Rush, and ET Blue. So the rocks look very, very permissive. We have seen, the right sort of conditions for hosting big major gold deposits. And right now, with our exploration and drilling programs, we are vectoring in on new drill targets. And we believe by this fall, our challenge will be drilling into an ultimate ore body. And as well, with this area on the Cortez Trend, the potential could be, if we hit a discovery, it might be quite substantial. So we're very excited about Keystone and Gold Bar North.
Yeah, you sound pretty excited. And the Gold Bar North, that was the one that I wanted to ask you about next. I mean, it appears to be that from the information that I was reading, it looks like you guys are getting ready to start drilling, and you had mentioned that. I mean, how close are you to drilling, or have you identified some targets? It sounds like you have. And when do you plan on getting that drilling project started?
Absolutely. On Gold Bar North, there has been some historic drilling done in the past. We are in the process right now of doing some additional advanced geophysical studies. So Dave Mathewson is a very, very big believer in gravity, and he likes gravity surveys to show the density of the rock and the structures. And these big major gold systems tend to form on the edges of these structures.
Okay.
So he uses the interpretation of this geophysical gravity survey to help him really define these drill targets. So we're in the process of doing that right now, and I anticipate we will be drilling on Gold Bar North in the second half of 2017.
Oh, so you guys are moving this thing right along.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We drilled on Keystone last year.
Okay.
We've done additional drilling on Keystone this year. The results have been very exciting. Last year, we drilled 5 scout holes. And Dave Mathewson has a real recipe for success. He goes through the same process time and time again. He identifies a property he believes has tremendous potential, like Keystone. He comes out with geophysical surveys, soil sampling, rock sampling to really get all of the data. Then he does scout drilling. And the scout drilling, it's the first time there's ever been any deep core drilling done at Keystone. And the reason Mathewson wanted to drill deep and wanted to drill with core is he wanted to make sure that the right host rocks are present on the property. And this is so important, Rory. For non-geologists out there, your listeners have to realize that these big Carlin-style gold deposits, they tend to form in very specific type of rocks, very specific host rocks. And if you don't have those rocks, you probably have very low chance of ever finding a gold discovery. Well, the good news is with our scout drilling program in 2016, and we finished it up in 2017, we know that we have these right host rocks. They exist all over the property, and they are at shallow to moderate depths. So the property is very, very permissive. Now what we have to do is ultimately vector in and try and drill a hole into a discovery, into mineralization.
I'm glad that you guys are on target. It sounds really great. I mean, and Dave Mathewson, his experience, I mean, if he was with Newmont, I mean, that speaks in volume about who he is and what he brings to the table. I mean, that's great. It's great stuff.
Yep. Yep. He's tremendously experienced. And, Dave is, he's, like I said before, a proven ore finder. After
Yes.
Dave left Newmont, he set up his own company called Tone Resources. That was taken over by Rob McEwen, the billionaire founder of Gold Corp.
Yep.
And then after that, Dave went on to be one of the co-founders of Gold Standard Ventures. That was a real darling company over the last, 5 years or so. Dave led their exploration teams to their big discoveries on their railroad project. They started that company with about a $15 million Canadian market cap, and it actually went up to $1 billion Canadian market cap based upon those discoveries.
Jeez. Man, he's a true rock hound.
He really is. He's a rock star.
I like it.
Yeah.
And last question for you, Ed, and then I'll let you get back to your afternoon. And it sounds like you really have, with you being in Geneva and having the right people on the ground here in Nevada, in particular with Dave Mathewson, it sounds like you've really surrounded yourself by some really great people that know exactly what they're doing. And that is the key element to a successful mining corporation. I mean, you've got to have the right people. And that's the bottom line.
Yep.
You have to have the right people. And speaking of which, this is a question just for you, Ed. And how do you define success?
Yeah, Rory, that's a great question. And I tell you, I think success in life is if you want to be successful, you have to have passion about something. Follow your heart, follow your dreams, and have passion about what you're doing. And then ultimately you will become successful. And let me give you the example just with our chief geologist, Dave Mathewson. Dave Mathewson has done extremely well in his career. Dave, in case your listeners don't know, he's getting up there. Dave's 72 years old.
Wow.
But Dave, and he's done well financially. He's been a big shareholder of some major successful exploration companies. So he doesn't have to go out and work for a paycheck. What gets Dave Mathewson up every morning is that excitement in the belly that today I'm going to find it. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to discover it. I know it's there. I know the big deposit is there. I'm going to find it. I'm going to discover it. And Dave Mathewson gets up every morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. On the weekends, he's poring over charts and maps and geological information and geophysical studies. We talk on the telephone at all strange hours because I'm 9 hours time zone ahead of him. And that is the definition of success. That's why Dave Mathewson has been so successful throughout his career, because he has that fire in his belly. He has the drive, the passion that every day he wants to go out and find a new discovery. And it's such a pleasure to work around successful people, because that success, it's very contagious.
Yes, it is. And I like it a lot. I mean, and the way that you have approached this interview, I can sense the passion in your voice and the love for what you're doing. That is shining through as much as you have described what Dave's passion. I mean, it's all there. I love it. I mean, because I couldn't agree more. If you don't love what you're doing, you're not doing the right thing, and you should do something else. Period.
Absolutely. I think, Rory, dinosaurs were around for a long time. We're here for a short time. I mean, we're going to be on this little ball of dirt we call the Earth for maybe 85 to 100 years if we're lucky. So enjoy it. Enjoy every single day. Make the most of it. Live every single day like this is your last day, and just make the most out of life.
I love it. That is exactly it. That's exactly what I try to do. Some days I don't hit the mark, but most days I do. So. But we've been speaking with Edward Karr, Mr. Ed Karr, and he is the president, CEO, and chairman of US Gold Corp. And you can find them listed on the NASDAQ under the symbol USAU. Ed, I certainly appreciate all your time today, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Rory, it's been a huge pleasure. Thanks so much for having us, and thanks for the interest in US Gold Corp.